I was printing several interesting backgrounds for today's video when I discovered a lovely side effect that I produced, making frames with DECALCOMANIA effects for my photo transfers. And that became my main theme for this one. Let me show you that. Hello print fans! What you see me doing here is what I planned for this week's video, putting tape strings next to each other that I think will give me a nice effect for a background of a photo transfer. I am preparing this on a gel plate, but you can also do it on a piece of plastic or any kind of non-absorbent surface. I'm letting the pieces overlap each other, trying not to make it look so even because that's what I think will make it more interesting. I'm using a piece of sealed cardboard to take off the strings and put them aside. All of what I'm printing today will be done with my beloved etching inks by Akua. Let me say here again, the Deacalcomania effects you can also achieve with regular acrylics, but the outcome is just not that interesting as with the etching ink. You will see in a minute how stunningly the etching ink prints turned out. As I haven't cleaned my brayer and rolled out black etching ink before, there is still a little bit of black remaining on the brayer, which makes the red a little darker, and I was intending that. Now I'm pressing on the stripe combo several times in different areas. What you don't see here is that I am pressing them on an absorbent paper in between to get rid of most of the paint on them. In one area I want to create more interest by printing only half of the stripes, and thereby getting a print of the torn edges of the tapes. By the way, excuse the halo you see here of my lamp for filming. There's not much I can do about it as this is mirroring. And this is the paper that I pressed the excess paint on. It's an artwork itself. Maybe something for a collage later. I had an idea with pressing my palette knife into the paint, making it look something like a flower or a tree shape, just to try out something new. And now for the trick that changed the main theme of this project. To have a rim, sort of a passepartout, I want to print on a larger paper, and therefore I am using this matte board. Sometimes I'd rather have a straight outline than the gel plate's natural edges, although they are often nice too. And you have to press the paper a little firmer where the rim of the matte board is, so that it goes down all the way in those areas. Voila, looks nice. Maybe a little too dark for a black photo transfer, but we'll see. Maybe some boats here on a red sea? But now for the really interesting part. Taking the matte board off the gel plate, I noticed that it left kind of a frame, and as I had not taken the color right to the rims, it is a very intriguing outline. So let's try to print that. There is no hurry to think about this, as the etching ink stays wet on the plate literally forever. That's what I also love about it. Picking this up with the backside of a print gone bad in another video, because yet I didn't think this would be something exciting, but then it was. I saw some fabulous decalco patterns and other structures, and I thought, what if the frame is the initial artwork? It had taken some of the structures inside the frame too, which made it all the more challenging. Having thought that, I immediately wanted to try printing another frame, this time blue, with a little bit of red residue on the brayer. I tried not to mix the two colors too much, which worked out beautifully. I'm speeding up the tape printing as I basically did just the same thing again. Sorry for the angled camera view here. Making the same palette knife marks here, and this time they remind me, as it is blue, of fractured ice shapes. I'm placing them on the rim, but more to the inside, hoping that they will also show in the frame print. The excess paint sheet, getting more interesting. Ooh, I cut myself, bleeding blue blood. I know that was a lame joke. For some reason, maybe because of the bad joke, the camera didn't record the printing of the tape pattern background. Here you see the result. And the frame I made the same way again. I especially love this one, also because of the parts of red in it. Next was that I wanted to try whether it would be good to make the whole picture just with a mat board, which obviously always gives that nice structure. Pressing it into the paint and repeating that throughout the whole surface. On the mat board there is still some of the red paint, which mixes in but in the end is not visible very well. For this print I'm not using the matte frame again. And here's the result. It's strange, the lower part looks like a bunch of giant water pipes or so. The result is nice, but I'm not doing anything with this one in this video. And now for something completely different. I always wanted to use that sentence. Now for the photo transfer. This is a laser copy of that old photo of my mother that you've seen me doing printing before in my videos. I'm pressing it into the blue etching ink and putting another paper on top just to get the excess off the sides. I cannot really recommend the etching ink for the photo transfer. I think for this the regular acrylics work better, which is why this transfer turns out to be a little light and I am not inserting it into the frames that I printed. Putting it next to the frame to show you, I think that was a good decision. You wouldn't see much of her in that frame. And now for something not so different. For the red frame, I want to print an old photo of my best friend. I know she looks like an exotic movie star, but she's just my best friend. Well, as I never practice what I preach, I'm using the etching ink for the transfer again. Pressing the photocopy down and rubbing it rather lightly, which is always better with this technique. And it turns out almost as light as the other one. But in the red frame, I think it works. I'm placing a fresh matte frame on top here, and then I'm taking the gel plate up, placing the frame page underneath and registering the gel plate the way I wanted to show in the frame. I'm pressing the gel plate down on the paper, but what you normally do is that you turn the package again to be able to press the paper more at the sides of the mat board. The effect that I didn't do this is that the photo does not quite fit in the frame, which in this case I actually like a lot. Happy accident. The photo is really too light, so I work it out in some areas, as I would have anyway, with colored pencils. Starting with the lips and a Prussian blue pencil, which is a lot like the Akua blue. But then, as the frame is red, I decide to make the lips partly red too. Here I'm working with a darker blue. For the eyes, this is a good idea. When you draw eyes, always remember that the eyelid casts a shadow on the eyeball. It looks more realistic if you do that shadow. I really don't know where this red ring came from. And I'm thinking that my friend is probably of Indian offspring and failed to place her red dot exactly between the eyes. It is weird, but I don't want to erase it. This is what I wanted to show you. Erasing the Akua etching ink is not possible if it has dried for a few days. But on the same day of printing, it is. So I take off some paint here for some highlights. Look at how the eyes shine now. And her teeth never have been whiter. Straight out of a toothpaste commercial. And now I'm also working out the frame, which is actually the most fun for me. Photos don't inspire me that much to work out. And if they did, I'd probably give my friend a nasty skin disease or something. But these shapes that the ink creates. First some intensifying of the red shadows, and then I want to add blue shadows to go with the photo. And that's a good decision. And here you can still see a bit of the tape structures I made. So, how do you like it? I think it's a frame that goes well with her beauty. That blue frame. I could almost leave it like that, and normally I would only work on it after I have added the photo, especially as the palette knife marks indicate ice and snow. But I'm going to use the ice shapes anyway, and the frame is now more important than what goes into it. So I might as well do a little development here. Using mostly the dark indigo, darkening the outlines of these wonderfully delicate textures. You may say, well, that will be hard to even see in the end. And yes, that makes me say, I enjoy this so much that I don't care so much what the outcome is. Living in these fantasy landscapes makes me so happy, and I don't know why exactly. By all means, try this if it makes you happy too. If there are misprints like here, I'll just integrate them into the design. The ice shapes. Now I will develop them too. And look up here. If that is not a perfect Arctic landscape, I don't know what is. How do I always get so lucky with what the paint gives me? Unbelievable. I hope I'm not losing the ice impression with what I'm drawing here. Yeah, a little raindrop. Love those little rascals. It is so fascinating how these ice shapes come through the frame into the picture, and I didn't even plan them as ice shapes. I just wanted to try out the palette knife. I'm gonna use that technique again for sure. There is some kind of frame inside the first one, and I have no idea where that came from, but I'm enhancing it. And just to show you here, there is a spot where the paint layer got a little too thick. That is still smearable, but after a couple of days, the ink will be consumed by the paper and dry well. Red icebergs, sunrise in the Arctic. Now, if I draw more of all these frames in a frame, there will be no space left for a portrait. So I better finish it now. So now the frame is finished. I love it, I love it, I love it. But here's the question which I'm asking you, my beloved subscribers. What would you put in this frame? The combination with my mother's portrait would actually fit, as there was a lot of coldness in her life when she was young. But that could be too emotional for me. I also thought about a ship like this one. Maybe it is the Endeavour of Robert Franklin, who was trying to find a northwest passage or something and failed. That's quite dramatic too. Maybe I can find a way to have both, if I can somehow reproduce this frame. Please tell me which you would prefer, and then I'll print that for part 2 of this video. Find out how I decided next week. I will also work out these two, which were my initial theme today. Thank you for all your support. See you next week. Bye.